Hey, good morning, Phil and Olivia. Good morning, panel members. Just let us know when we can get started with the opening remarks.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. We are good to go.
Good morning. And I see Phil is with us today, Phil Carbolino, not Barb Bartosik.
Yes.
Okay. So let me know when we can get started.
We are good to go.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. Due to COVID-19, Committee of Adjustment public hearings are being conducted virtually by electronic means through WebEx Webinar, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. Participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx Webinar, which is moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting with their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All participants will automatically be muted on entry, and when your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. We also ask that you mute your devices until you are called on to speak. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelists when your item is being held. During this time, your camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time, and at all other times, your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Members of the public and applicants are not allowed to use the share screen or any other panelist controls during a video appearance. The host will remove you from the panelist role if you fail to respect this instruction. Land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that apply to the property, permissions to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to sever properties to create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address, as the Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto Local Appeal Body, in the event of an appeal, will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee rendered here today, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body and in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government has recently amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. As of November 28, 2022, only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons and public bodies, as those terms are defined in the Planning Act, are permitted to appeal decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. The hearing procedure is as follows. Call each item in the order listed in the agenda after dealing with some preliminary matters, such as approval of previous minutes and deferrals and closed files, and making your submissions when application is uncontested, which doesn't mean it's uncontested, but just means that there's only one person here to speak to it, the applicant or agent, and no other parties present to speak to it. In those circumstances, where an application is, the applicant or the agent may make a presentation if they desire. Where's my spot? If they desire, then the committee does not require a presentation. Applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to address the committee. And after the applicant has spoken, or if they haven't spoken, the matter is taken into committee and members may ask questions of the speaker. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, is given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee, and the clock is up on the board, and we will comment when you're reaching the 5-minute mark or have reached it and ask you to wrap up. When addressing the committee, please start off by clearly stating your name and address for the record, and please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. Where there is someone present to make deputation in addition to the applicant or agent, the applicant or agent goes first and makes their presentation to the committee. Please note the committee may not entertain revisions made to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if being substantially revised in order to ensure that the application is accurate and that all those who are entitled to notice of the application have been informed of the changes. Then individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Again, maximum 5 minutes. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they finish their presentations. And when all speakers are finished, the applicant or their agent has an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised to the speakers and answer questions raised by the speakers, but not to introduce any new information at that time. That will then mark the end of discussion, and the application is taken into the committee for a decision. We have some housekeeping matters to take care of. First of all, are there any declarations of interest of panel or staff to declare on the matters before us this morning? Okay, none to declare. Closed files, Mr. Carvalino, are there any files to be closed today?
None at this time, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, sir. In deferrals, we don't have a consolidated memo from planning, or if it was, I missed it. But in going through the agenda, it appears that in this morning's agenda, we have two items, being a request D6 on our deferral list, but a request by the applicants to defer, and that is items 8 and 15. I don't know if anyone else got that or if there's any that I missed. Also number 22 in the afternoon.
Mr. Chair, there are a few additions to that deferral list. We have item 1, the agent will be requesting a deferral. Item 8, 11, 15, and 16.
Okay, so how did I not know about it? 1, 11, and 16, or?
These are recent requests.
Okay, so we didn't miss anything. It's just that last minute that it's come up. Wow. Okay, so 1, 8, 1, 8, 11, 15, and 16. Okay, 5 and 6, 6 deferrals today. 5 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon so far. Okay, so let's go to those items first in numerical order. So the first item is
Mr. Chair, would you need to have a motion for the minutes of May 25th?
Oh, right. Sorry. I forgot that. My bad. Okay, we have needing a motion to approve the minutes from the last hearing, which Mr. Carvalino was May the
25th. And I just wanted to note that there was one modification requested by member Kumeric, and that was done by staff.
Thank you. I saw that in the emails. Okay, then no one else has any changes to the minutes then. So in that case, if I can have a motion to approve the minutes of the May 25th hearing.
I so move.
Thank you, and I believe you were there. We were one of the panel members on that date. Seconder for that motion. Mr. Taylor, thank you. All in favor? The minutes are approved with the matter that the amendment caught by member Kumeric. Okay. So moving over against the deferrals then, Mr. Carvalino. The first item we'll call is item number 1, 90 GLENHAVEN Street. It's 2-story north side addition and a rear addition with 7 variances. Planning was looking for a refusal, and next door neighbor was opposed, as well as urban forestry. So let's see here from Mr. Benkowski, who's the agent for the applicant, as well as we have the neighbor who had written the opposition letter on the line as well from 92 GLENHAVEN next door. Good morning, Mr. Benkowski.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so you're seeking a deferral, I understand, from Mr. Carvalino.
Correct. It was last minute. I thought we would be able to get the changes done in time. I yet to receive the alterations to the plans. So at this stage, we will be requesting a deferral.
Okay, so yeah, and planning was looking for. So you are making some changes in light of planning's
correct
and urban forestry, perhaps. Okay, so we do have a neighbor on the line, and I guess that neighbor had written in a letter. So does anyone first have any questions for Mr. Benkowski regarding the deferral? So I assume you're going to bring it back as soon as you can get those changes made. It's not like one of these long ones that disappear for a year or more.
Correct, Mr. Chair. I'm hoping to have the changes at really any minute.
Okay, so perhaps just we want to state for the record what just the nature of the change, just for the benefit of the neighbor on the line.
Yeah, it will be a reduction to the FSI,
Okay,
and we're looking to alter the front for the municipal tree.
okay, fair enough. Thank you. Okay, any questions for Mr. Binkowski, or we'll just touch base with Mr. Piccoli next door. Okay, Mr. Piccoli, Gabriel Piccoli at 92 Glenhaven. I assume you were here to speak to the merits, but we're not going to speak to the merits. The matter's being deferred, which I guess is good news. It means there's changes being made to reduce the variances, as we've heard from Mr. Binkowski. Welcome, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
It's very good.
Yeah, so I guess we'll just wait to see how the adjustments are made. The main concern was the size of the house. So if that is being looked at, then by all means, I'm willing to see what what it looks like, and then we can go from there. There's going to be another hearing or another meeting after that, right?
Sure. I was just going to say that you will be re-notified. There'll be a new hearing. It'll be put on an agenda once those changes have been made, and you will be notified just as you were last time, as well as by the sign posted on the property. And if you still continue to have concerns, you'll certainly be entitled to come and let us know what those are.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, too. Okay,
no one has any questions for Mr. Piccoli? Okay, no need for Mr. Binkowski to respond to that. So let's, can we have a motion to defer, please?
Go ahead, Mr. Taylor.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm prepared to move deferral to enable changes to the variances.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor? It's unanimous. Mr. Binkowski, we'll see you here again. We'll have a great day. Okay, so the next item going in order is item number 8. That is number 8 is 250 WINCOTT Drive. And this was an application. We do have an email request to defer it to a specific date to June 22nd. The speaker on this is Long Quan, the applicant, as well as we have the neighbor from 53 Renfield on the line as well. Sorry, that's number 2. What am I talking about? Sorry, number 8. Ryan Doherty is the agent, and there's an area resident from 5 Etobicoke Hill on the line.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning. Can you just state your name formally for the record, sir?
Yeah, my name is Ryan Doherty. I am agent to this application. I am a land use planner with Bousfields.
Okay, so can you just give us the nature of the to state the request? I see this was for okay, so just indicate anything why this matter is being deferred.
Sure. Yeah, so we had requested a handful of variances from an existing site-specific bylaw to alter the required unit mix and sizes within that site-specific bylaw. Since filing the application, we've had some correspondence with city planning staff who have raised a few concerns, namely with the minimum unit sizes that we're seeking. But they've also suggested that there is a path forward with this application. So we're requesting a deferral so that we may work with city planning to come to an agreeable solution. And that would result in increasing the minimum unit sizes that we are seeking with these variances. So just need a little bit of additional time to make sure that we can come to a solution that both planning and the applicant are satisfied with.
Okay, so yeah, so this was to permit the increase in number of permitted units and reduce the required unit mix and size restrictions within Building C on the sites pursuant to your site-specific zoning bylaw.
That's correct.
Okay, so we do have. Does anyone have any questions? Or if not, we'll just touch base with the neighbor that's on the line. No questions for Mr. Doherty. Okay, so let's hear from Denny Martin at 5 Etobicoke Hill. Not on the merits, but just to touch base about the fact that this matter is being deferred. Okay.
Thank you. I wasn't expecting this to be deferred, so I don't have any comment on deferral other than if it's requested and approved. I can't really say much to that. I did want to speak, if possible, in the 5 minutes allotted, to some of the merits of the requested change.
Okay, so that will happen at a later date, sir. I assume you were notified, or you saw it on a sign. I don't know how close you are to the subject site. It does see it. You're on Whitcomb Hill. So you will be re-notified, and you'll have a chance to respond and appear when this matter is brought forward again.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. You have a wonderful day, sir. Okay. So, members, unless there's any last minute questions, can I have a motion to defer this matter as requested by the applicant?
I'll move for deferral to allow for revisions to the application.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. Seconder for that.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Butsky. All in favor? Okay, the matter is deferred. Mr. Doherty, we'll see you here again. Okay, the next matter up for deferral, as advised by Mr. Carvalino that we were not aware of, is item number 11, 2278 Lawrence Avenue West. And speaker for that application is Valuddin Mohammed, the applicant, and this was to construct a second-story addition above the existing dwelling, a two-story rear addition, and a new rear deck with 4 variances. And I believe, yes, it's the only speaker. Valuddin. Welcome. Is Valuddin online?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. This is Mohammed Saeed, one of the authorized agents on behalf of the property owners.
So you're not Valuddin, you're Mohammed Saeed. But you are an authorized agent for the applicant?
That is right, sir.
Okay, sure. Okay, so yeah, this is an application to construct a second story. I just stated what it was for with 4 variants. We were not aware of this. Okay, it's something I said. We got an email in the additional materials from the agent looking to reschedule. Okay.
Mr. Chair, this is being deferred because of a notice issue. The wrong date was on the public hearing notice, and for that reason, you can schedule or defer this to the June 22nd hearing. Staff's already accommodated it, so it doesn't have to be to the next available. It'll be to the 22nd.
Okay, and that's acceptable, I guess, to the agent.
That
Okay,
is, sir.
if there's any questions, or can I have a motion to so defer this matter to the specific date of the next hearing, June 22nd? I don't have a visual, so just call out your name. So motion to defer.
Yeah, I'll move for deferral to the, sorry, what's the date? June 24th, is it?
22nd.
22nd date.
Okay, thank you. Seconder for that motion, Ms. McCluskey, thank you. All in favor? Okay, the matter is deferred. We'll see you back here on June 22nd. Okay, so that was number 11. Now we're off. Now it's 15, item number 15, which we were aware of that. The speaker for item number 15, which is 94 Willowridge Road, and an application to convert the basement into additional unit and to construct a new asphalt driveway in the front yard with 2 variances. And we have the deferral request in the additional materials. So the speaker is Michael Swan, the agent, and as well as we have the neighbor next door. Oh, actually, it looks like we have the homeowner online, so we just need to hear from Mr. Swan, but not the homeowner, Linda Butt. Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, the owners.
Can you state your name? You're Michael Swan?
Yeah, oh, sorry. Yes, my name is Michael Swan. I'm the agent for the owner. And they are asking. Sorry, I'm being told I can't hear. The owners have requested deferral because of a last-minute report submitted by Urban Forestry. and they would like to engage the services of an arborist, I should say, to deal with the issues that forestry has, urban forestry.
Okay. Yeah, I see that in the additional materials you've given us. First of all, transportation divide, they're okay. There's an email, you've included 12 letters of support and confirmed your deferral request to deal with that issue. The urban forestry denial request. Okay, so members, any questions for the agent, Mr. Swan, or is someone ready for a motion?
Sorry, I have a question, sir. Is your client going to be dealing with the transportation comments as well? I believe they had some comments about the setback from the fire hydrant, particularly.
Oh,
I have not seen these comments. Could you tell me what date they were submitted? Because I
Any
haven't seen
additional information that we got, so they're dated June 6th.
June 6th.
Yeah.
No, I have not seen that.
Okay.
That was only, yeah.
So we got them, but they had concerns with the distance of the driveway, the additional driveway, and the distance from the fire hydrant.
Right.
So if you can deal with that in your.
I will definitely address those upon reading them and upon looking at them in conjunction with the arborist as well.
Okay. With that being said, then, if there's no other questions, I'll move for deferral to allow for revisions to the application and discussions with staff.
Great. Thank you, sir. I also note that I think that transportation, didn't they not advise they were okay, but they did have 5 conditions of approval. So
correct. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we have a seconder for Mr. Palmer's motion to defer. Mr. Taylor, thank you. All in favor? Okay, it's unanimously deferred. So, Mr. Swan, thank you. We'll see you here again, as well to Ms. Butt, the homeowner who's on the line. Thank you. We'll see you here again. Okay, so the last item being deferred this morning on our agenda is item number 16. And number 16 is 7 Hinton Road. Enrique Valencia is the agent, as well as we have neighbors from 9 Hinton and 4 Reservoir Gate on the line as well. And provided staff confirms they're on the line.
Yes, they are both on the line.
Okay, and this was for a new 2-story addition, includes an attached first floor garage and a new porch. And we really didn't seem to have much on, we had the additional materials, we had 12 letters of support, 4 letters of opposition. And so anyway, so this is a request. Let's hear from the agent then as to the issue of the deferral.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Right. This again, sir, I think is one we didn't have before us until Mr. Carvalino told us it's a last minute deferral request. So please let us know what's the nature of your request. And we also we have 2 neighbors on the line.
So can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So basically the nature of the deferral is it's based off the comments from urban forestry. We want to deal with them first before finishing dealing with the rest of the neighborhood. I did not get a chance to fully go around. My client did go around the neighborhood to gather the letters of support. I understand that the neighbor adjacent to our property, she has some concerns, and I've seen the letter of opposition already. I'll be speaking to her directly while we're dealing with urban forestry as well. We already contacted the arborist as well.
Right. And I think as urban forestry was looking to deny variances 1 and 2, so you want to deal with that.
Yeah. Oh, one more thing. Community planning also had some comments, but we came into an agreement, which that's actually going to take away some of the variances. So I just have to rework the site plan now as well.
Very good. Okay, any questions for Mr. Valencia? If not, we'll just touch base with the 2 neighbors on the line with respect to the deferral. Okay, so the first neighbor we'll hear from is the neighbor right next door, Rajinder Matharu at 9 Hinton Road.
No, nothing to say on that.
Okay, so I don't know if you were going to speak on the merits, you had issues, but it's going to be deferred. You'll be re-notified, and if you still have concerns, you'll have a chance to weigh in at that time.
All right. Sounds
Okay,
good.
thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, you as well.
Okay, any questions? I assume no one has any questions from Mr. Matharu? Okay, in that case, we'll move over to Susan Linzer, the neighbor at 4 Restever Gate.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Susan
Good morning.
Linzer here. I will, obviously, at this point, I'll reserve my comments until the next hearing.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, the matter is going to be deferred, so hopefully there'll be changes that will be of benefit or of that the neighbors will appreciate, and perhaps you still have concerns, you'll certainly have a chance to weigh in then.
Will I be notified by email or?
I assume that the same way you were notified this time. I don't know if you're within the radius that entitles you to notice of the application. If not, there'll be a notice posted on the sign.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Have a wonderful day. Okay,
You
so
too.
back to Mr. Valencia, nothing to add to that. So members can I have a motion to defer this matter for the agent to make changes to the application and deal with urban forestry and planning. Ms. Olson,
I'm happy to make that motion, yes.
thank you. Seconder for that. Ms. McCluskey, thank you. All in favor? Okay, it matters deferred, and we'll see you back here another time, Mr. Valencia. Okay, so I guess having said that, we can now begin hearing applications on the merits, and the first one will be item number 250 Renfield Street. Let's find my place. And this is an application to construct a new deck in the rear yard with 4 variances. We have a previous decision from November 2003, sorry. And planning is asking just for a condition of approval of privacy screen 1.5 meters on the rear deck. And the speaker on this application is Long Kwan, the applicant, and as well as we have a neighbor from 53 Renfield Street across the street on the line as well. So welcome, Long Kwan.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I understand.
Sorry.
Looks like you're the agent on this application.
Yes, my name is Long Kwan, agent for the owner at 50 Renfield Street.
Okay, so sir, I guess we don't need a fulsome presentation. This is for a new rear deck with
Correct.
4 variances, correct? And you see,
It's to replace the existing one, yes.
okay, and I see we have community planning is asking for a privacy screen along the north and south sides of the rear deck. I assume your client is okay with that?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so we just have a neighbor on the line. Looks like they're across the street from their address. So I don't know what their concern would be for a rear deck, but does anyone have any questions for Mr. Kwan? If not, we'll move over and hear what the neighbor has to say.
Good morning. I am the neighbor. I'm supporting his construction. I have no objection, but I do have concern about the construction that's right next to me that was not going through, that was able to skip the committee of adjustment, and it has been causing me so much trouble.
Sorry, are you talking about another
I would like that to you guys next time, in the next meeting, because I hope that will be in discussions like this. It has been for months, and there's so many variances in their site plans, and I don't understand why they were able to skip this committee of adjustment before they start construction and demolition of the old house. But I will leave it at that right now. But as for today, I'm supporting my neighbor for building the deck. Thank you.
Okay, ma'am, I was trying to get a word in while you were talking. Are you talking about another application or construction next door to you that didn't
Yes,
go
this
through committee.
construction next door to me, the 55 RENFIELD, sir. I had wrote it to different officials, city
Ma'am,
building
I just
officials,
want to let you know
performance, and nobody has written
not
back
dealing
to
with
me
that.
and has had any reply back from any officials from the city building, and has caused me so much distress and financial loss. And I don't understand. I have been under so much suffering, and nobody at the city building has given any care or having any concern, or giving any care about my concern at all.
Sorry,
So
ma'am.
I'm very much upset.
Ma'am, can I just interrupt? This is a public hearing on 50, nothing to do with 55. We don't know anything about 55. We're not in a position to deal. I suggest you get in touch with city planning and find out the status, or call the building department and find out the status of construction on the house next door, whether it was done with a permit, whether it didn't need any variances. This is not the proper forum for you to speak to us about, because there's nothing we.
Or the
That's not us right now.
local counselor, or the local counselor.
Sure, you can call.
I don't understand all of this, but
Yeah, I understand, but ma'am, this is not. We're in a public meeting right now on item number 50. We cannot deal with you and anything to do with 53. So call your
but I don't know why they were able to skip all of that and bypass.
Ma'am, we don't know. We're a public.
Mr. Chair, I
committee
have
of 5
muted
members.
her.
Yeah, we don't have anything to say on that, but it certainly, please weigh in, get in touch with the building department, get in touch with your counselor, get in touch with your MP, whatever you want to do, but we can't deal with that matter here today. We don't know whether this application went through committee, didn't have to come through committee, or whether it's being built without a permit, in which case the city would issue an order to comply and stop work order. So good luck, ma'am. We really can't deal with that matter, but we're happy you're supporting your neighbor at number 50 on their rear deck. Okay, so members, any questions for going back to Mr. Kwan and the application for the rear deck and the 4 variances and the condition of planning and the condition of urban forestry? So let's get back to this application. Anyone have any questions, or is someone ready for a motion? Mr. Taylor?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm satisfied that the requested variances meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act, and I move approval subject to urban forestry condition 2 and the community planning department condition regarding the construction of 1.5 meter high privacy screens on the north and south sides of the deck.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Seconder for Mr. Taylor's motion. Ms. Alderson, thank you. All in favor? It's unanimous. You have your approval, sir. Thank you. Okay, so item number 3, 1284 Weston Road. And this is an application. We have some different applications here today, actually. This is convert the existing mixed-use building into a medical office. And there's a variance just with respect to parking. An additional 6 on-site parking spots are required in order to, under the bylaw for a medical building. And we have a cover letter, previous decision from 2017. Transportation is okay, and we have a Metrolinx advisory. The speaker on this application is Alec Ring. And as well, we have the neighbor at 1280 Weston Road on the line. Okay, is Alec Ring on the line?
Yep, this is Alec Ring. I'm the agent applicant.
Okay, so you're converting, what's the current use of this building, this mixed-use building?
So it's actually 2 buildings connected. There's 1284 and 1286. And so 1286 was previously converted to a medical office, and we had variances there, the same one, which was to remove the parking requirement. They're now expanding into the adjacent property at 1284. And so we're looking to have a similar variance to reduce the parking to 0 which this is because it's under the old York zoning. Under the new zoning, it wouldn't even be required.
Right, and I'm reading that from right now as you're speaking from the transportation report, in which they have no concerns and recommend approval. And in the additional materials, an email clarifying, as you just stated, the applications for parking at 1286 was previously approved, and this is for 1284, and it's just based on the old York bylaw. Okay, any questions then for Mr. Ring? If not, we'll hear from the neighbor next door. Or looks like one building over. No, any questions, Mr. Ring?
Everything looks good when it comes.
Okay, I didn't realize you were on the line. I just was waiting to hear if there were any questions for the applicant. I assume there's none. So now I guess we're speaking with your Manjit Duga at 1280 Weston. So you're right next door to the medical center.
Yes, I'm in favor of him because actually there's no parking needed, parking spots needed because people park on the street because both sides have open parking. So
Correct.
I don't think parking is an issue. So
what's the use of your building at 1280?
Actually, I am the landlord for that corner building.
Right.
Yeah, and it's a whole building. I have residential and commercial. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So he's my neighbor. Yeah.
Okay, so you're not opposed to this, or you are opposed?
No, I'm not. I'm in favor of him. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Members, okay, any questions for Mr. Duga, the next door neighbor, or we'll go back. I don't think we need to get a rebuttal from.
Just a comment. You know, it's nice to hear neighbors coming out to support other neighbors. That's all. So just a comment. Thank you. And I'm ready to make a motion if no one has any questions.
I think you're good to go.
Good. Because transportation is okay with this, I'm okay with it. I really appreciated the architectural renderings. I thought they were very well done. So I move for approval with no conditions.
Okay, thank you. Seconded for Ms. Alderson's motion, Mr. Palmer, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Okay. You know, medicals is important use, so I guess they're expanding that use. Okay, next item is 12 HAMPTONBROOK Drive. This is an application to legalize and maintain the existing ancillary structure cabana in the rear yard. There are 4 variances, and we have support from 275 and 273 LaRose. Looks like they're probably the neighbors to the rear. We have an order to comply. And that's all we have in addition to the 4 variances. And the speaker is Ida Evangelista, agent for the applicant. No other speakers. Welcome, Mrs. Evangelista.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members. Ida Evangelista on behalf of the owners of 12 HAMPTONBROOK Drive.
Okay, I don't think there's no one else here. I don't think we need a presentation, but if you want to just give us a 1-minute summary of what this is about.
So this is an ancillary structure. It just gives them, the owners, an additional place to go to during the summer months. They're not travelers. The builder next door was building and offered to do the structure for them. They were none the wiser, so the builder went ahead and constructed the structure. And that being said, we are now coming to you for approvals of this structure. And it is, we're not straying far from the, our variances are very minimal. You know, we are asking for an additional 0.52 in our height and an additional 14 square feet in size. So I do submit that this is very gentle. We do have support from all the neighbors around us, and I'm open to any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, looks like the 4 variances look pretty minor in themselves. They obviously, good explanation for why this was built ahead of time. It happens. So members, any questions for Mrs. Evangelista, or someone ready for a motion? It doesn't look like there are any conditions. Mr. Taylor?
Yeah, I'm satisfied that all 4 variances are extremely minor in nature and meet the other tests under the Planning Act as well. So I move approval without conditions.
Okay, thank you. Seconded for Mr. Taylor's motion. Ms. Alderson, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mrs. Evangelista. We'll see you again. Be well. Okay, our next application is item number 2458 Lakeshore Boulevard West. It's an application to permit a takeout eating establishment restaurant. There's 1 variances being the total floor area being permitted 400 square meters. This is coming in at 462.28 square meters, and that is the only variance. The speaker for this application is the agent for the applicant, Philip Scalina, and we have absolutely nothing on file for this.
Okay, yes, good morning, Mr. Chair and Committee. Yeah, so what we're looking for, basically our client is looking for us to allow variance for an additional areas for our takeout restaurant.
Yeah, okay, very straightforward.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Only the 1 variance, 62 square meters.
Mm-hmm.
No opposition from anyone. So let's see if members have any questions for you, sir, or if they're ready to weigh in with them. Sure.
And just a quick question for clarification. This is not a drive-through, correct?
No, it's not a drive-through, and we are not expanding the footprint of the building at all. It's basically an interior alteration.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, no other questions. Someone ready to weigh in with a motion?
No questions. I'll make a motion. I'll move for approval. Variance requested meets the 4 tests in the Planning Act. No conditions.
Thank you, Neil. Seconded for that motion.
And because I like donuts, I'm happy to second that motion.
Okay. All in favor? Okay, you have your approval. Thank you very much. We'll see you again. Next application is item number 6, 1745 Albion Road. This is an application to maintain the existing personal service shop, barber shop, and to increase the interior floor area of the eating establishment. And there are 2 variances. The barber shop personal service use is not a permitted use in an E zone, and the second variance is the maximum permitted combined size of an eating establishment or takeout restaurant, just like the last one, is 907.5 square meters. This is going to be 1,087.5 meters. And the speaker on this application is Joe Dome. And planning, yeah, that's right. Planning is, we have revised plans. Don't seem to affect the variances. We have a previous decision. I'm not sure if I only saw 1, if there are more, 2015. If there were others back there, if someone can check. And planning is actually opposed to the extension of the personal service shop. They're looking for a refusal on that. And there's a history of several committee of adjustment applications and T-Labs, and this deals with OPA 231. So we have that in the planning report of explanation. So let's hear from, I guess the speaker for this matter is Joe Dome. Welcome, Mr. Dome. Can you let us know what's going on? Give us some history on this. And while I'm doing that, I think I may have missed when I was doing my review. I thought it was just 1 previous decision, but are there more than 1 attached in our package? We have the one from 2015. Oh, yes. And then we have 2021 with Mr. Flynn. And then I believe that is the last. So we did have a few.
Yes. So basically what happened was
Sorry, just please start off and state your name and give us a little presentation.
Yes, my name is Joe Dome, 133 Torresdale Avenue, agent for the owner. And I'd just like to clarify regarding the, there was a previous community adjustment application to increase the floor area for the restaurant. And I was not involved in the application at the time, but it was my understanding that zoning review was not conducted prior to the hearing, only a zoning waiver. So that resulted in a request to increase the restaurant floor area, but no specific number was associated. There was basically no number to make a decision on in that case. For this application, the variance has been correctly identified by zoning, and that's resulted in the 1087.5 square meter floor area proposed. This is basically due to a small 48 square meter barbershop within the unit that has since been removed and added to the Caribbean Lime restaurant space, though they can't use the additional 48 square meter space without approval for variance number 2, and that's part of the reason we're here today.
Right. Okay. So what's about OPA 231?
Yeah, so regarding the barbershop, so an important factor here is that under the general employment areas of the City of Toronto official plan, personal service shops are permitted use, but the City of Toronto zoning bylaw 569/2013 does not currently permit personal service shops in an employment industrial zone. In accordance with provincial regulations, City of Toronto is in the process of aligning the zoning bylaw to the official plan for employment areas through OPA 231. And although community planning did recommend refusal for variance number 1 due to the fact that the alignment of the official plan and bylaw has not yet been implemented, we would request that committee consider their other recommendation that should the committee of adjustment choose to approve the variance, they recommend that the use be permitted for no more than 3 years from the date that the committee of adjustment decision is final and binding, and that would basically allow time for the alignment to be made. And if it's not done within that time, then another committee of adjustment application will need to be made.
Okay. Yep. That is correct. They have a backup position for 3-year approval, which they take your client will be satisfied. They have no objection to the other variance, the expansion of the restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Members, any questions for Mr. Dome?
Sorry, just one question. So the use isn't allowed in the zoning bylaw. Is there any negative impact in allowing this use through a minor variance?
I don't believe so. Given that, I mean, the official plan, it is allowed under the official plan, and that the work is in place to align those. I think that would indicate that there's no negative impact there.
Okay, and you're okay with the alternative request from planning for a 3-year term on the approval?
That's correct.
Okay. If that's the case, if there's no other questions.
Actually, I have a bit of just to clarify.
Okay,
So
go ahead.
the barber shop inside the restaurant, or it has a separate entrance? Trying to look through the plans.
Well, there was a separate entrance for that barbershop. But that's not the one that's being proposed. There's another barbershop next to the shawarma takeout. Next, that's unit number 5. So that is the non-conforming existing barbershop converting to legal use. But there was a 48 square meter portion of unit number 2 that has now been reincorporated into the restaurant, but they can't use that.
Okay, so it is a separate. It's not like they have to walk through the restaurant to get to the.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, it's okay. It's a separate. It's not a Better Call Saul situation.
No.
I don't know if anyone knows that. Okay, members, any questions? Or can you have a motion, please?
Yeah, I'm ready to move a motion. I'm going to move for approval with the 3-year time frame on the approval, since the applicant is in favor of that. And that's the only condition.
Okay.
Sorry, just to clarify, variance requested is the 2 variances are minor in nature and meet the 4 tests in the Planning Act.
And subject to the proviso committee planning condition on the use barbershop.
Yeah, on the 3-year term, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Palmer. Seconded for Mr. Palmer's motion, Ms. McCluskey.
Sure, I'll
So,
second. Thank you.
all in favor? You have unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Dome.
Thank you very much.
Okay, hope you get a free haircut. Okay. Item number 7 is our next application, and perhaps after that we'll take a short break. We'll been for an hour. We don't have a lot left with all these deferrals we dealt with this morning. So the next item is 12 Batavia, and this one is how about we take our break now and we go with 12 Batavia? I guess that's going to probably be our longest one of the morning. So why don't we take the break now? Is everyone okay with that? Okay.
Thank you.
So how about we return at what, 10:35? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I think you're muted.
Thanks for noticing that. Okay, so we can get started again. Our next application is item number 712 Batavia. It's an application to permit an additional dwelling unit in a laneway suite, a previous committee of adjustment application. Approved variances relating to a fourplex and soft landscaping. So there is only the single variance that an ancillary building may be used for living accommodation in one laneway suite. In this case, they want living accommodation in 2 laneway suites. And we have before us supporting material cover letter from RENFIELD's Paul Cronus. We have applicant's presentation, which we'll get on the screen. We have 2 previous decisions. Planning is recommending refusal. We have a Metrolinx advisory, and we have letters of opposition, which correspond to the 2 speakers here to make submissions. The residents at 2734 Batavia. Okay, so Mr. Cronus, welcome. We'll turn it over to you and have your supporting materials, your presentation up on the screen.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of committee. My pleasure to be before you again today to speak about the minor variance application at 12 Batavia. My name's Paul Cronus, and I'm the agent for the owner of the property. Yes, you're correct. This is an application seeking permission to occupy the lower ground floor that you see on the image right now for a second laneway suite. This is an existing building, and as we go through the presentation, you'll notice the built form. The one thing that I want to emphasize, and I know some of the members have heard this presentation not too long ago on another similar application, so I won't repeat issues about the need for housing. I think this committee and everyone is astutely aware of our requirement for units in the city of Toronto. But I wanted to again emphasize that the built form that you see built today is existing and as of right, and I will demonstrate that as we go through the application and presentation. There is no variance required to density, and I think that's important that I need to emphasize that, because as part of my presentation, I'll speak to elements of the staff report and also respond to some of the comments from the letters that were filed. But there's no requirement for variance to density. Throughout the planning report, there's references to density about 5 or 6 times. Density deals with built form, the GFA or the FSI, if you will, floor space index. There's no variance required to that. So it's we don't deal with people density on a lot. I just wanted to emphasize that. There's no issue on height. There's no issue on coverage. All these requirements are met. There's no setback variances required. There's no angular plane. We meet the landscaping requirements, and I will address that as well because there was a previous variance on landscape. There's no parking variance required. All the regulations, and this is an important summary as well, because as we go through the official plan requirements, you'll see how that comes into play. So just at the presentation, you see the covering page. I show the image of the unit. If you flip to the second page, and this is where we get into some differences between the policies between staff's presentation and what I need to emphasize for your consideration, because overall, this application meets and satisfies all the 4 tests: the official plan, the zoning bylaw, it's minor, it's desirable. The property is designated neighborhoods, and it's zoned, as you see on the right, RM. When you go to the staff report, they talk about policies under section 4.15 of the official plan and how it needs to respect and reinforce the existing physical character of each geographic neighborhood. And they talk to things such as prevailing heights, again, no variance on height; massing, there's no variance on massing; scale; density, not people density, but FSI or GFI; and dwelling type and nearby residential properties and prevailing building types. And I will come back to that. And then you'll see references to section 3.2.1.10 in their staff report. And if you go to page 3 of the presentation, which is the next page, I show that policy and I underline what I think are the takeaways from that policy. It says, no physical change unless you can demonstrate that it will respect and reinforce the existing physical character of the neighborhood. And then to the right, there's a sidebar that shows laneway suites or second suites, which includes laneway suites, and it's in plural, which ancillary buildings will have regard to matters such as compatible height, again, no variance on height, massing and scale, maintain adequate privacy, sunlight, and sky views, and provide direct and safe access to meet the fire, emergency, and service requirements. All those requirements have been met, sir, with this existing built form. So there's no change required for the second laneway suite. Now, the one thing that I'd like to emphasize, which doesn't come out in the staff report, is when you go to the next page on page 4, this is what we call the site and area specific policies. These are the prevailing policies. And I underline the section, which is important. It says the plan policies, basically the base official plan policies, those that we just went through in section 3210, 4.18, and 4.15, they apply to the lands except where the site and area specific policies vary from the plan. And you will note in the staff report, they talk about the laneway suites were brought into a site and area specific policy by way of official plan amendment 546, which amended official plan amendment 460. And if you go to the next page, so these policies here are the policies that guide development of laneway suites. And so to the extent there's any conflict between the policies we just reviewed, these are the policies that prevail. And in my submission, sir, we meet and exceed all these policies. And it's important to note there's no prohibition on the second laneway suite in these policies. So in my submission, we do maintain not only the general provisions of the official plan, but the exact provisions.
Okay. You please wrap up. You're at 6 minutes almost. 5.
Oh, really? Okay. So in terms of if you flip the page down to page 8 and 9, you'll see that the committee has approved the previous laneway suite of 5 Mariposa. It's less than 10 meters away. And if you go to page 9, you'll see the relationship between the two. So the topology does exist.
Sorry, that's for a singular one, right? That's
no, it's two. It's two, sir.
That's for 2 laneway suites?
Yes, and member McCluskey and member Taylor were in support of that, despite the refusal report by the Committee of Adjustment. So this is a prevailing built form, and it's on the same laneway, 10 meters away. And they too can have a fourplex as well, because I'm sure that might be a question based on the recent EHON. Now, in terms of the landscaping, sir, you'll see there's about 5 meters in the front yard. There was a reduction approved.
Yeah, sir. Again, you're going to have to wrap up. You gave when you're with over almost 7 minutes. So
okay.
Please.
Well, I submit, sir, that for all the reasons I indicated, it's minor. It's desirable to occupy the space for a second suite. It meets the official plan and zoning bylaw, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. So this is basically your application is basically variance number 2 from the June 22nd, 2022 hearing, correct?
Correct, sir. And
a year ago, no, yeah. So that's basically I think it was Mr. Taylor's motion. I believe he was fortunately on the panel at the time. You were here. You got your fourplex. You got your single laneway suite. You're going now you came back now to reiterate a new application. Exactly of what you got, I'm not getting into res judicata, but it was basically what you were turned down on. Mariposa may not have a fourplex in the front in terms of distinguishing, but we'll hear from we're going to hear from the neighbors, and you'll have a chance to respond as well to that. But is this or anything different here than what variance number 2 in your last application a year ago?
No, sir. But the City of Toronto treats the laneway suites and the main buildings separately. We unfortunately made the strategic mistake of bundling them together, which is not the way they're supposed to be addressed. And because they were bundled together, we didn't have the ability to deal with the laneway separately, and that would have tied up the fourplex.
Okay, so you didn't appeal that refusal of variance 2 a year ago. You decided to come back with a fresh application for the same thing. I'm just.
I guess that's one way of looking at it.
Yeah. Okay. And I guess your position is the fact that it's on on the total number of. That's not a variance in terms of the fact that this lot already was given a fourplex.
Correct, sir. It's in a similar situation as the other one.
So anyway, that's the end of my questions. But does anyone else have any questions or comments for Mr. Cronus before we hear from the two neighbors?
Yeah, I have a question. Mr. Cronus, has there been any policy changes from the planning department in the last year that would alter this request? i.e., I'm trying to think of when the parking standards got changed.
Yes, sir. The parking standards were changed in February of 2022. And this is why I was trying to explain we had a variance for the landscape requirements in the front because we were providing a parking space. And if you go to the last page of the presentation before you, that's going to be replaced with full landscaping. The whole 5.2 meter front yard on that will be fully landscaped. So the parking variance yes, there you go. There. So that
but sorry, you said that was February 22. So that was
it happened
there was
almost
no
at the same
change
time.
then in the policy then from the last hearing we had. If the policy change was in February 22, the policy change was prior to the last hearing that we had on this exact application, I think. So nothing really has changed.
I'm trying to remember when the hearing was on the last application. I know Mr. Chair mentioned it, but I'm just trying to remember. I think it was in April, right?
June.
June. Right. So,
yeah, the end of June 22.
So initially we filed for a zoning review and because the parking bylaw was under appeal, sir, that wasn't resolved until after the hearing.
Okay.
Yeah, so there was an appeal on it was passed. In fact, it started in 2021 December. It was enacted in 2022 in February. It was subject to appeal, and the order just was released about maybe 2 months ago, 3 months ago.
Okay.
So we're in the middle of that period of time.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that. And just for the record, I've known Mr. Cronus for over 30 years on a professional level, so just want to put that on the record. But we're not pals or friends or anything like that, but I have known him for 30 plus years.
So what I say is if you live long enough, practice long enough, you get to meet a lot of people.
Yeah, but allegations have been made that I should make declarations of professionals that I know, and I know a lot. So just want to have that on the record.
Yeah, no, I don't. Just being in the same profession, this committee is often composed of lawyers and planners and architects, and they'll obviously deal with the people. But as long as they're not, just an aside.
Mr. Palmer,
you're in business. You'd have to be declarations of most of your applications. But anyway, getting back to the merits of this one, I just wanted to clarify that not that it's that he's coming back for the same thing that was refused in the course of the approval of the fourplex. And my question is, and I'm not trying to be trite or anything, but if we're allowed to, I guess maybe some people will come back for 3. So this is relatively new built form. In the city, change is supposed to be gradual. They come on allowed 1 laneway. The same thing with the garden suites. So that's where we are. So if anyone else want to make any questions or comments with Mr. Cronus, or if not, we have 2 neighbors who wrote in the 2 letters waiting to make their submissions as well. So if that is no one else have any questions for Mr. Cronus, we'll hear from the first person on the list, Pamela Tiley at 27 Batavia.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome.
Okay. I just wanted to mention before I speak that my neighbor, Linda, can you hear Linda Kroba?
She is the next speaker after you.
But she had difficulty getting on. So I'm wondering if the technical person can see her on the list here of panelists.
Olivia, I guess that's a question for you. Is Linda, in fact, on the line?
Yes, I see her as a call-in user. I have unmuted her. Linda, you can go ahead. Are you able, hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay.
Hello?
I'm going to mute you now and I will unmute you when it's your turn to speak. Pamela, you've
Okay.
requested to be on video. Would you still like to be on video?
I don't mind being on video.
Okay, Pamela, I have made you a panelist. You can now turn your video on.
Okay. So, oh, there I am. All right. So, my letter is about the controversy that has surrounded this property since it first came into being. And I just want to make a few points, even though Mr. Cronus went over by 2 minutes. I won't need that. Number 12.
Yes, ma'am, if you need the same indulgence, I'll be happy to grant that as well.
Okay. Thank you. The property at number 12 Batavia, as you know, was constructed, its core, its shell was constructed before a public meeting with neighbors. And so, as you can imagine, people were surprised by the number of units. And after the public meeting, which didn't go well for the company, they did compromise a bit, and that property was then approved for 4 units in the front and 1 in the back. And the neighbors were willing to go along with that for the most part. We were concerned, however, that the same company had bought another property on the street. And we figured that it was and has recently been approved for the same number of units, 4 in the front and 1 laneway suite in the back. When we received the notice that now the laneway suites were, an extra laneway suite was being applied for, we realized that they had built this as a 2 laneway suite building. It's huge. And I think that Mr. Cronus's arguments in his cover letter that, you know, it would be a shame to waste this space, it should have been thought of before he even brought it to the variance committee, the committee of adjustments. The bylaw suite, or I'm sorry, the bylaw section 150.8.20.1 1A only allows for 1 laneway suite. And so they should have thought about this before they built the space for 2. I think they got the idea because at 5 Mariposa across their alley had built 2, but they did not have 4. It's a family home in the front, and those suites were built for their children. And that's the case in the neighborhood. We believe that developers coming into the area, taking advantage of the low cost of these bungalows and putting up what really looks like an apartment building. It's allowed, we understand, but the way they have gone about it is disrespectful to the neighbors, and we would like to see only 1 laneway suite in the back. I'm not even going to talk about density because Mr. Cronus feels there's no obligation on their part to even consider it. And I think relevant to the fact that they're buying up more than 1 property makes the density issue quite significant, even though there may not be any bylaw about density. it does capitalize on resources in the area. And like I said, respect for the neighborhood. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Tiley. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Tiley before we hear from Linda Krobos at 34?
Oh, he's going to speak again? Oh, God.
No, I said we're going to hear from Linda after you speak.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if any of the members have any questions for you.
Oh, I'm here.
I don't have a visual, so if you want to just call out if anyone has any questions. I just, okay, if no one has any questions for you, then let's hear from Linda Krobos.
That was funny. Oh.
Hello, is that Linda on the line?
Yes, it is. How are you?
Welcome, Linda. You're at 34. Hi. We just heard, I don't know if you were listening, we just heard from Pamela Tiley, your neighbor. And we now want to hear from you, and we'll have your letter up on the board as you make your submission.
Okay, first off, I'll start off. I'll take my full 7 minutes if I can get it. My name is Linda Krobos. I live at 34 Batavia. I'm right across the street from Pamela, and this is affecting my laneway with this laneway suite. I think my largest objection, because if you've read the letter, is that this has always been approached in a very secretive, let's see what we can get away with kind of attitude. When this first was brought up to the committee, I do recall, and I have the audio and the text of it, Mr. Corona said they were trying to take a chance with getting 2 laneway suites in. Now he's calling it a strategic mistake. And then, it just smells bad all around. When they first went to the Committee of Adjustments, you said, no, we're not going to give you the 2 laneway suites. We're going to keep it as the 1. And I'm not sure if you can actually pull up the photographs that I sent along, because there's one from the laneway and there's also one from the backyard showing the units. They had framed this building, as Pam was mentioning, and they were already trying to get a 2 laneway suite in that space. Now, if you look at the fenced-in area that we're looking on the screen right now, there's 2 massive sliding doors on the bottom and then 5 windows on top that don't open. If you look at the next photograph, if you can see it from the backyard, there's 2 man doors and then no, there should be another photograph. I don't want to waste my time here. There's 2 man doors and then another large sliding door. If they're going to be looking at these apartments as 2 horizontal apartments, that means apartment 1 on the ground floor consists of 3 huge sliding doors, yet the apartment upstairs has 10 small windows and no exit. There's no secondary fire exit if unit 2 is upstairs and if unit 1 is downstairs. And, conversely, just thinking about this, having those massive doors in the back laneway, these sliding doors, how is that safe? And those are the bedroom areas, those 2 bedrooms. So this is I don't know what they're trying to do here, but what it comes down to is that they've tried to sneak in so many things, trying this, trying that. And, they're armed with lawyers, they're armed with money. They keep on kicking the can to see what, actually breaks. The worst part of this all is, as Pam mentioned, the same group has bought another house across the street. Now, my fear is that if this second laneway suite gets approved, it's going to be just an easy peasy way for the house across the street to do the same thing. On top of that, if they got away with 2, what's to stop them for asking for 3 or making other variances or changes? I think this apartment as it stands right now, the photograph that we're looking at, it doesn't make sense because I would never want to rent an apartment with 3 huge sliding doors, especially one to my bedroom. And upstairs, there's no secondary fire exit and there's no balcony. So what I'm thinking they might do is split this apartment, not horizontally, but vertically. And if they do that, the units will be smaller. There'll be an upstairs and a downstairs. But again, the fire issue is there. There's no secondary exits. And, it's just, there's so many things that always send up flags with me. I'm worried most of all that this will set a precedent. And if it sets a precedent in the city of Toronto, allowing people just to throw money at situations and hoping the neighbors don't say anything. This is worrisome because this company, this agency, you know, PCMW, whoever owns this place altogether, does not live in this neighborhood. I live in this neighborhood. Pam lives in this neighborhood. We're the ones that are going to have the ramifications of anything that happens with this site and this building. Now, the rents for this place, according to their own website, are something like $37.50 a month. That's humongous. I mean, a lot of people can't afford that anyways. To be able to afford a rent like that, it's suggested by the Canadian Real Estate Association that you need to make $120,000 a year to own an apartment of that value. That means, at minimum, 2 people will have to rent each unit. And I think if you read through the letter, you'll understand that with these units, we're talking up to 12 people in a single house when the average house here on the street has maybe 5. But if we're going to be considering that people may not be able to afford this and, you know, moving in with roommates, what if 2 couples decide to rent a 2-unit space? Well, now that's 4 people, and it just multiplies and multiplies and multiplies. And that is where I will speak to density, because you're going to be eventually with one property, there will be a minimum of 12 people, a maximum of 24, and we have no way of knowing if it'll be one or the other. We have no way of knowing whether or not they drive cars or not. And the space that they put at the back there for these electric vehicles, I mean, they better be clown cars because it's a very tight and narrow space. Laneways are not monitored as well as main streets are. I mean, I look out my front window. If I hear something or I see something, I'm going to look out my window and notice it. Laneways are quiet. There's, it's a little bit unnerving to be in the laneway at nighttime. And these suites with those massive doors, massive windows, and how they're configured, it's just going to be, it'll be a problem down the road on so many levels, on density, on just basic affordability, in my opinion, and then just safety-wise for the laneway itself. I don't want to see this neighborhood get packed with tons and tons and tons of people, and the company as well, according to their website, they have options of renting, having a mortgage, or they're willing to sell the house itself, lock, stock, and barrel, for $1.3 million. So let's look at a scenario again. 5 years down the road, they sell the entire complex, the entire space. Well, then it's all new rules all over again. So I bought my house. I paid my mortgage. I'm here for a good long chunk. And my responsibility as a neighbor to my other neighbors is to make sure that my place looks nice, that I'm willing to work with my neighbors, and I have a happy neighborhood to live in. There's nothing here that will prove that they can do this. And, God bless Paul Crones for having to write all this material and do whatever. But it's going to be an impact on density. It's going to be an impact on just the idea that no matter what we say and how
if you can please wrap up, I've given you 7 minutes.
Yeah, the last thing is that my whole point is, why are we here again? This was already done a couple months ago.
Yeah, I asked the same thing.
Any questions?
Yeah. Thank you, Mrs. Thank you, Ms. Crowboth. Very good, very good presentation. Thank you very much for that. And, I take it that for the neighbors, these applications create great anxiety and concern. And, we do deal with things one application at a time, but the issue of precedent is certainly is of relevance in this situation. And okay, does anyone have any questions for the speaker, for Mrs. Crowboth? If not, we'll go back to Mr. Cronus for his rebuttal and then take it into committee. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the 2 that just spoke on the application. I will only focus on what's required for the 4 tests. I'm not an expert in real estate values. All I can say is in the function that I had attended not too long ago, I heard Premier Ford said there were about 400,000 new residents that came into the city of Toronto last year. And from the EHON study, if you have had a chance to read it, and the final discussion on it at council, it's the private sector, not the public sector, that is, they lean on to provide these units. So my client, of course, he's interested in providing that and providing options. So that's how we're coming at this. Again, if you could, to respond to one of Ms. Tiley's concerns, if you go to page 7 of my presentation, I did provide an extract of chapter 150. I highlighted on the top part where it says one laneway suite. This is the area where you see it. And at the bottom, I highlighted that ancillary buildings that have 7.5 meters or more in distance between the main building and the ancillary building, they're permitted to go to a height of 6.3 meters. So this built form you see today complies with all the zoning requirements. It building permit that was issued clearly has a stamp on it to be used for one laneway suite. So all the requirements in the built form you see is in compliance. What's changed since the last time, sir, is I came to the committee, asked for permission for a fourplex. We did not have the benefit of the EON study, and one of the criticism was, well, the 5 Mariposa example is a single detached unit, and they put an addition to create 2 laneway suites. Well, as of today, sir, that unit, the single detached unit, has permission as of right to go to fourplex. So it's in a very similar situation. I can't speak to the people density that come into the province. That's something beyond planners' control. But again, in terms of the density, there is no variance required. And honestly, there's nothing secret of what's being done. We're here before you. It's totally transparent. There's notices. There's an opportunity to discuss and debate the application, which I respect. And you know, for all the reasons that I said before, and I've heard Ms. Tiley and Ms. Grobosh prior to this, and I've read their letters. I'm familiar with their concerns, but it is, again, I emphasize, it's a topology and built form that is now 10 meters away. And I think this is a compatible use. And as you say, Mr. Chairman, it is a gradual change. And I don't see it happening throughout the whole laneway. It is gradual. There may be more, I don't know, but
well,
yeah, I submit it's gradual.
Yeah. Okay, are you finished, or you want to keep going?
Yes, sir, unless you have any questions. I mean, there's lots we can cover, but I think you've
so just want to clarify one thing, that the neighbors seem to have drawn some inference that you went ahead and built and then got your approval. I take it that if you would have, you know, the main house, whatever you got approval for, if you frame the outside, you could do whatever inside. So if you didn't get permission for the fourplex, you could have built a threeplex or a twoplex. Same thing with this, I guess. The inference that you've now built this out. So in other words, the ground floor can now not accommodate a vehicle, or can it? If you, let's say you get refused.
No, there was never intent to accommodate a vehicle there was a vehicle that was parallel to the laneway in the 5.02 meter setback from the laneway. That's where the vehicle was. But because parking is no longer required, we'd rather use that as landscape.
Okay. So now my next question is, I assume if you got refused here, you would just have one larger laneway suite at the back, incorporating the ground and the second floor, correct?
Each floor is about 800 square feet, so it would be 1,600 square foot. And then again, it could be occupied by how many people. I mean, we can't control that, of course.
Exactly. Well, the question is, there's no restriction on using the up and down. You have your one laneway suite, that would be your one laneway, and you'd have your 4 in the front. I don't know whether there's another variance of that the laneway suite is larger than the main suite, but I'll leave that for you to consider. But I just wanted to clarify.
No, there is no variance on that, sir. Yes.
Okay, so I'm saying if you didn't get a second suite, you just have a large 2-story laneway suite.
Well, that would be, yeah, subject to whatever appeal.
You wouldn't be tearing it down or doing anything else. It would then be able to have to be used in accordance with the approvals granted on the site.
Yeah, but I would submit it's an underutilization at that point. It's again, it's a
yeah. Okay, members, leave the floor open for questions for Mr. Cronus and/or for either of the 2 neighbors who spoke, or comment on a decision. If someone wants to take it in after everyone's finished questions.
Just a quick comment. I was very moved by the 2 speakers, and also I believe that community planning probably is on the right path. I worry about this setting a dangerous precedent.
Okay, is any other questions, or ready to weigh in with a motion? No one has any other questions. Mr. Taylor?
Sorry, if there are no more questions, I'll weigh in with a motion. I agree with Ms. Alderson's observations here. I too was quite impressed by the comments made by the neighbors. And I'm as influenced by the comments of our community planning department now as I was in June 2022. And I think most of us, the exception of Ms. McCloskey, I think Neil and Ms. Alderson, myself, and you, of course, Michael, sat on that panel. I remember this application very well. As was the case then, still applies as far as I'm concerned. The city planning department says, and I quote, "The proposed form of housing is not contemplated by the current official plan." And as far as I'm concerned, when we distill all of the issues and emotions going around this, that's where everything hinges as far as I'm concerned. This does not conform to the official plan, and therefore it misses the mark on that essential test of under the Planning Act, and I consequently move refusal.
Okay, thank you, sir. Seconder for that motion?
And yes, I will second that motion.
Okay, all in favor? It's unanimous. The application is refused. Thank you, Mr. Cronus, and thank you.
Thank you, members.
To the neighbors. Thank you. Okay, we'll see you again.
Thank you.
Okay, our next application 8 has been deferred. So number 9 is 43 ALGIE Avenue. This is to permit a vehicle dealership. There are 2 variances: that the proposal does not comply with use requirements for vehicle dealership as per the subsection, and that the proposed used vehicle dealership is not permitted in an E zone. We have on this application presentation from the applicant. Planning is recommending refusal. There are 10 letters of support, 1 letter of opposition. And the speaker on this application, there is one, is Nan Stojic.
Mr. Stoyek, I have moved you to a panelist role, so you can now turn your camera on like you have requested, and you can unmute yourself.
I think audio is fine if the panel is okay with it. Can you hear me?
For sure, yes.
Well, good morning. I'm Neda Stojic on behalf of the Daniela Stojic's application, authorized speaker for the matter. This matter is very simple. The building was built in 1957. It's a commercial building, and it's got a circular driveway. Essentially, it's zoned, and it's been used since 1957 as a vehicle depot, vehicle repair shop, vehicle fueling station, and vehicle service shop. What the proposal is to open up is a small vehicle dealership, keeping in mind that it would be a small family business, small, run by one individual. The activities of vehicle depot, vehicle repair shop, vehicle service shop would not be conducted on that property. It would exclusively be a small car dealership, and it has a sufficient parking lot at the back of the location that is fenced in. It's basically 30 by 50. Inside the structure, it's a rectangular structure. It already has all the requirements that are required to.
Sorry, can we get the applicant's presentation material, this picture up on the board in particular? Thank you. Go ahead, sir. Sorry for interrupting.
Yes, it's okay, sir. That is the front of the property. Essentially, what the front of the property would be utilized. To the right is the actual office. It has an employee washroom with a small hallway. At the back of the office is a separate entrance. It has a customer washroom. The bay door to the left is it can open, slide for vehicle access. There's a bay door at the back. To the right of the structure is a circular driveway. To the left of the structure is a fenced-in circular driveway. The front of the structure would just exclusively be utilized for a 2 to 3 customer parking spots and 1 employee spot. The interior of the structure is rectangular. It's vacant. It's 30 by 50. It can house there's several vehicles inside. I'm talking about 5 or 6 of them. This is not be a big operation. It will be a small operation. In the back, maximum 10 vehicles. And since 1957, this structure has been servicing vehicles in a lot more involved capacity, noise, emissions, fixing vehicles, things like that. This is not the activity that I'm proposing that this business would propose to do. As a matter of fact, it would upkeep the property and place a sign on it. There would be absolutely no structural changes. And I think it's important to note that that street, as a matter of fact, is extremely, extremely diverse. There is a Ministry of Correction and Safety across the street, a halfway house. A majority of the activity on that street is actually servicing commercial vehicle activity, servicing vehicles. Just north of it, maybe less than 100 meters, is Queensway, which is, again, just a hub of business activity. Just to the bottom of it, less than 100 meters, it's Four-House Boulevard. It's basically a Highway 400 for Gardner. And there is no residences on it. Most of these properties are, in fact, conducting vehicle-related business activity, including Intact Insurance, Bel Air Direct, Sunny Automotive Center, Rocket Auto Services. There is a clubhouse there for the Hells Angels, almost literally across the street. There really isn't. There's already a small dealership called GB Autos, a mechanic shop, and this dealership would be even smaller. In no way, shape, or form would it disrupt the activity on the street, the neighborhood. It would be a quiet activity, actually less than what's already allowed, and this is mostly be an online business regardless, and there'd be ample parking spot at the front for 2 to 3 customers at a time. This is not a large scale operation, and it would simply comply with all the intended use for that, what's already on the street. If you look at the Google Maps, if you go down several pages down, it's already got what I've done there, if you could just say there, sir, the presenter, it's highlighted the areas that I was discussing. The red dot is where 43 ALGIE is. The back, where the road is, to the right of you, is a yellow highlighted area. That is a parking lot, basically. There's a bay door at the structure at the back of it with 2 driveways each side of the building. And that's when most of the vehicles, approximately 10 of them, will be parked. This is what it's designed for. Interior of it is designed to service vehicle, but there will be no servicing vehicles. There'll be no repair shops, garage shops. Already in the city's own definition of licensing, a car
Yes,
dealership.
sir, if you can wrap up, you're at 5 minutes, please. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir. A car dealership already qualifies as a public garage, and that's what it would be. So it'd be small in scale. It wouldn't disturb anybody, and the property would be upkept as it's not. It's in poor state of repair now. But I don't believe it would satisfy all the criteria and upkeep of what's already on the street, what's already allowed by almost everybody.
Okay, thank you. I guess you've established that most of the uses are car-related uses, but not the dealership. The city is saying is more of a retail rather than a car repair or service shop, which is not within the zoning. But that's what I take it from there. And the neighbor seems to be okay with it. The neighbor who wrote in what they called a letter of objection may actually not be. He just had questions. He may be actually happier to have no, maybe not. He says, well, they walk on my lawn while looking at the vehicles. We have too many cars on place. So the question is whether, in terms of it's more, it's a heavier use or than that. But the city is just saying it's just not the place for it because dealership is a retail. This is not a retail area. Any questions for the applicant? I don't think we have, and we don't have anyone else registered to speak on this.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
For the applicant, just wondering when you say online business, just because in looking at the street view over time at your neighbor's property, it looks like they have a lot of vehicles as well, and sometimes they're parked on the road. And I worry a little bit about if this property also had 20 vehicles or up to 20 vehicles at a time, just the magnitude of those cars parked out front. So maybe you can explain a little bit more about why. Yeah, you mentioned an online portion and what role that has in the business. So I'm just a bit curious.
So the address with Mr. Douglas Johnson resides. His property is adjacent to this property. It hasn't been upkept. There has been a significant amount of debris and dirt that has built up onto 43 algae. What I would intend to do is just upkeep that property and put a small fence about 3 feet high, to basically indicate the property line, and that would be done properly with the city. And I would also clearly mark the parking spots, and there will be no vehicles parked out front. It would be exclusively parking spots for the customers, which would not be many.
Okay, so you're not actually, it's just the customers coming in and out. It's not actually sale of vehicles being stored out front necessarily.
No, they will not be.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
Okay. Okay, any other questions, Mr. Palmer?
Yeah, sir, the use isn't allowed in this particular zone, so there's no zoning standards for this use. Have you reviewed where the use is permitted, what the zoning standards are, and if you meet those zoning standards, i.e. parking, other requirements, landscaping, things like that, that all we're being asked for is to permit this use, but we don't even know if you meet all of the zoning standards for that use. So my concern is we're not covering everything in this application.
As far as I know, sir, I have a letter from the actual zoning department, one Ryan Van Deer. He the examiner notice. It is, in fact, it has been examined. I have examined. It more than qualifies for all the criteria of what a small dealership would operate in a city of Toronto. More than qualifies. The reason why I mentioned about the office inside with the public and customer washroom, it already has one. It already has a designated parking space outside. It already has a parking lot in the back. And it already is designed exclusively to move small amount of vehicles inside into the interior of the vehicle. So then it more qualifies in size, in parking, and every other formation. There's absolutely zero structural changes that need to be made outside of placing a sign at the front door and doing those maybe a clear parking signs for customers, and which will be a few, 3 to 4. And that small little fence adjacent to property where 37 algae that needs to be put just to mark the property lines. That's all. It more than qualifies, sir. Because the building was built for that reason, to service vehicle. For example, a fueling station or a vehicle depot or a repair shop have way more requirements than what this does.
Okay, no, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, or is someone ready for a motion? Mr. Taylor?
Yes, so I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair. I certainly understand and appreciate and respect the city's view that this area is designated core employment area. But the reality is, in this area, given the fractured land ownership, the nature of the businesses on this street, and the fact that it's really a mixed use street, there are single family dwellings, a lot of auto related businesses. I'm not really fearful that we're disrupting the implementation of that ultimate vision. That vision is going to require some significant investment, land assembly, et cetera. And I think in the meantime, this proposed use is compatible with what is there now and what is likely to be there, in my view, for at least 10 years. So I'm satisfied that the requested variance meets the 4 tests, and I move approval.
Okay, thank you for that motion. I have a seconder for that motion. Ms.
I'll second. Yeah, I appreciated the applicant's explanation of the business and agree with Don. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you. You have your approval. And then we can move on to the next application, which is item number 1069 Hamptonbrook Drive. This is an application to construct a second-story addition above the existing dwelling, a new covered front porch, and a two-story front and north side additions. There are 4 variances. Transportation is okay, Metrolinx advisory, and that's all we have. And the speaker for this application is Baluddin Mohammed. Sorry. No, it's not. That's the one. It's Khalid Ibrahim. Mr. Ibrahim, welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. I'm Khalid Ibrahim from IDIM Architects. I'm the architect and the agent for this application. We are proposing a second floor addition and front 2-story additions above the porch. And we are asking a relief of 4 variances, an FSI of 0.58, a front yard setback of 7.86 meters, a side yard setback of 0.96 meters, which is existing, a building length of 18.55 meters, which is existing too. So we believe that our application meets the 4th test, and I will be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir, for that. Any questions for the applicant, or is someone ready to weigh in with a motion?
I'm ready to weigh in with a motion. I think this is a straightforward application. It meets the 4 tests under the Planning Act. I move for approval subject to, transportation is okay. So subject to no conditions.
Yeah, thank you. Seconded for Ms. Alderson's motion. Mr. Taylor, thank you. All in favor? The application is approved. Thank you, Mr. Ibrahim.
Thank you so much.
Okay, 11 has been deferred, so we can move over to item number 12, which is 232 Donald Avenue. We have on this application a revised notice for the agenda. It's been revised. There were 5 variances. One of them, the main wall height, has been revised, so we now have still have 5 variances. This is for a 2-story addition above the existing dwelling. And we also have the revised zoning waiver and plans. We have a cover letter presentation showing an area map and supporting photos. Planning has a condition of approval. Transportation is okay. And that's all we have. Urban Forestry looking for condition number 2. And the speaker on this application is Marco Vieira. Only one speaker, agent for the applicant. Welcome, Mr. Vieira.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Marco Vieira. I'm at 257 Dunraven Drive. I'm the agent and the applicant for this proposal.
Okay, very straightforward. I don't believe we need a presentation. I take it you're okay with the planning condition of approval that they're requesting?
You, Mr. Chair, yes, we are.
Okay. Committee members, do you want a presentation? We have Mr. Vieira's presentation materials in our package showing a marked up map and examples as well as renderings of the subject property. Very complete presentation materials. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Vieira? Is someone ready to weigh in with a motion? And I don't have a visual on everyone, so if someone's hand's up, I can't see it. Oh, there we go. Now I got a visual. Mr. Taylor?
Yes, I think this is a very straightforward application. I move approval subject to urban forestry condition 2 and the community planning condition.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Seconder for that. Ms. Alderson, all in favor? We have unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Vieira. We'll see you again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Have a good day.
You too. Item number 13 is 1197 the Queensway, 8 ZORRA Street. Sorry, 1197 the Queensway. I don't know what and I think 8 ZORRA Street is on the agenda, but not on the actual application. In any event, this is an application to permit a parking deficiency, and there's a total number of 9 spaces with obstructions. This is often the case once buildings get built. So we have transportation, we have the site-specific zoning bylaw, we have supporting material, a parking variance analysis from the applicant, and transportation has no objection based on a development planning review perspective. So there is only that one variance. And the speaker is Ryan Sankar, agent for the applicant. So this application is also for 8 ZORRA Street, as well as 1197 the Queensway. Because I have a question for staff, whether on the application itself, we don't mention the 8 ZORRA Street. So
It's a corner property, so it fronts on both the Queensway and on ZORRA.
Okay, so my only comment was on the application, it doesn't mention 8 ZORRA. So I assume we're okay in terms of notice and all of those other fun things.
That's a good question. I don't know. Perhaps staff can weigh in on that.
Yeah, I just mentioned Mr. Carvalino is listening.
Yeah, I am. I'm just having a quick look to see the location map. And from a notice perspective, it would be the lands that were identified on the
yeah, it gives a legal description.
Yeah, so it would be the entirety of the lands shown in the location map, and notice would go out. With respect to the municipal address, it used to have quite a few of them, as you can see from the location map. I'll leave it up to the committee whether or not they feel that the municipal address would make a huge notice issue.
Yeah, no, all I was just saying is that on the application, I just had it as the Queensway address, and the only place I see 8 ZORRA is on my results list and on the speakers list. So that's the confusion. I don't see it actually, the other address appearing. So I assume we're okay with the front address in any event. Don't mean to overly complicate things. And in the additional materials, we did have a clarifying email from the agent answering transportation questions in green. So in terms of this, what's before us. So let's hear from Mr. Sankar, and perhaps he can answer quickly that question about whether 8 ZORRA is included or needs to be on the notice.
Mr. Chair, quick question for you. I'm looking at the location map, and 8 ZORRA is not highlighted as part of the lands. So if 8 ZORRA does form part of the legal description there on the notice, or if those lands are part of the development property, the lands, then we do have a notice issue, because the 4 corners of the property would be moved to include 8 ZORRA.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't even know where 8 ZORRA came from. I don't know if the other members, because the only place 8 ZORRA is mentioned is on the results list.
But why don't we ask the applicant?
Yeah. Okay. So, Mr. Sankar.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I'm not sure about the addressing of it. I just, when I saw how it was listed, as previously mentioned, like the property did previously include a number of addresses. I just assumed that 8 ZORRA was one of those previous addresses, and that's why it was included. I'm just looking on the map right now, and it appears that 8 ZORRA it is within the boundaries of the application and the boundaries of what was highlighted in the notice.
And Mr. Chair, having the applicant confirm that and looking at the survey in the file, the lands do include 8 ZORRA, and from the location map that was on the board earlier, that area that's highlighted in blue would be where the 60 meters is taken from. So because it doesn't include 8 ZORRA, we did not provide notice for the corresponding distance from the south limit of 8 ZORRA. So we do have a notice problem.
Yeah.
I would recommend we defer and have staff include the entirety of the lands in the circulation of the notice.
Yeah, probably a wise idea, because you look at the location map, it doesn't include that. So in terms of even the zoning examiner looked at things necessary, and you say is in terms of circulation and notice to the public, the 60-meter radius was not taken from the southern limit of that property, but the southern limit of the ALBION, the Queensway property. So, Okay, so members, any comment on that? You in terms of what Mr. Carlino is stating, and that we probably need to defer this, and we'll give Mr. Sankar an opportunity to comment as well before we vote. So, any questions or comments? If not, let's hear from Mr. Sankar on the issue of having a notice issue and having to defer this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, I'm not sure what latitude I have here to really object to this. I mean, it sounds like this is just a clerical thing, and it was an error that was made in earnest. You know, I just came prepared to speak to the fact that the variance is quite minor in nature and one that's commonly approved with technical background.
Yeah, before we can get to the merits.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. So I guess if that's the direction of the committee, then we have no choice but to defer.
Okay, members, can we have a motion to accordingly?
Yeah, sorry, I'll move for deferral to the next available hearing date to allow for proper notice, including 8 ZORRA Street.
Okay, thank you. Seconded for Mr. Palmer's motion. Ms. Alderson, all in favor? Okay, the matter is deferred. Our regrets, Mr. Sankar. We'll see you here again. Be well. Next application is item number 14404 Melrose Street. It's an application to construct a detached dwelling with integral garage. I know it's the first one this morning. The first new build. Often see a lot of these. And there are 2 variances. GFA and the main wall height. The speaker for this application, we have a supporting photo. We have a form letter of no objection with 4 signatories, including both adjacent neighbors. And the speaker for this matter is Oriana Nanoa, the agent for the applicant.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Oriana Nanoa, located at 900 the East Mall, Suite 300, Toronto.
Okay, thank you. Welcome. So very straightforward application. You only have 2 variances with a new build. Thank you for the photo you sent and those letters of no objection. Would you like to add anything, or can I just see if members have any questions for you or if they're ready for a motion?
Yeah, I'd just like to add that in my opinion, the application is straightforward and there are only 2 variances in front of us today, and they are minor in nature and meet the 4 tests under section 25(1) of the Planning Act. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the agent or someone ready for a motion?
If no one has any questions, I'm ready for a motion. Very straightforward application. Move for approval. I believe it meets the 4 tests with no conditions.
Okay, thank you. Seconder for that? Mr. Taylor, thank you. All in favor? Okay, unanimous. You have your approval. Okay, so items 15 and 16 have both been deferred, so we can move over to item number 17, which is our last item of the morning session, 90 Ravenscrest Drive. Application to construct a 2nd-story addition above the existing dwelling, a new covered front porch, a 2-story front and south side additions, and the altered dwelling will contain a secondary suite. There are 4 variances. TRCA has no objection. And we have approval conditions. Oh yeah, 3 post-approval conditions. That's all they have to say. And that's all we heard from. There's no other comments from neighbors or city departments. The speaker for this application is Ian Cunha, as well as we have the resident next door from, I don't know if they're next door, 2 doors away, possibly at 84 Ravenscrest, registered to speak.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Ian Cunha representing the owners of number 90 Ravenscrest Drive.
Good, welcome, sir. We do have very straightforward application here. We do have a neighbor on the line. So why don't you just give us a quick description of what you're doing here?
Yes, sir. So we're asking permission to build south and east addition, and then a second story addition over the existing bungalow. We are asking permission to build a secondary unit, which is going to be used by the mother of the owner. And like the house looks like a single family home. Nothing there will give us any idea that there is a secondary unit. The floor space index, the 45 times the area of the lot is required, and we're at 47. And that's basically because the sloped portion of the lot is not included in the calculations. So it's just the top and the bottom of the property. If we were using all of it, we would have been able to comply. So
slightly above what's the variances do appear to be rather minor. So why don't we hear from the neighbor and hear what their concerns are, if any, and you'll have a chance to respond to that.
Sure.
It looks pretty straightforward. Members, any questions for Mr. Cunha before we move on to hear from the neighbor?
Mr. Chair, the neighbor is no longer on the line. He was on the line earlier and he has since dropped off.
Okay, so we will never know what, if any, his concerns are, and I see that the neighbor is in fact 2 doors away, not right next door at 94. Okay, members, any questions for Mr. Cunha? Is someone ready for a motion? Mr. Taylor?
It's a very straightforward application, I believe, meets the 4 tests under the Planning Act, and I move approval without conditions.
Okay, thank you, sir. Seconder for Mr. Taylor's motion. Ms. Alderson, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Cunha. Have a great day. We have now completed the morning session. I assume we can return at 1 p.m. for the afternoon, very short afternoon session as well. Is that fine, Mr. Carvalino? 1 p.m. You can do your sound check at 12:45.
We can, Mr. Chair. We'll see you at 1.
Okay. Have a good break, everyone.